I'm DJ Wheat, and we are here at LA Live, where the top 8 League of Legends teams on the planet remain, and they are ready to battle it out for $2 million and the right to call themselves the Season 2 World Champions. Ladies and gentlemen, the Season 2 World Playoffs continue right now.
Welcome, Summoners, to the Season 2 League of Legends World Playoffs, broadcast live from Los Angeles. Please welcome your casters, Freak and Rivington III. Welcome, Summoners, to the Season 2 League of Legends World Playoffs, broadcast live from Los Angeles. Please welcome your casters, Freak and Rivington III.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the League of Legends Season 2 Championship Playoffs. I'm Rivington Bison III. With me, as always, and pretty much forever, is David Freak Turley. We're coming to you from LA Live in downtown Los Angeles as the World Playoffs continue on Day 2. We're incredibly excited to be here broadcasting internationally in over 13 different languages. Starting with the 12 best teams, only 8 remain, Freak.
Yeah, it's been phenomenal all throughout. Yesterday we had the group stage and we saw 4 teams make an early exit. Now they split $150,000 between the 4 of them as prize money, but we're just getting down to fiercer and fiercer competition with better and better teams.
Hey Freak, the better and better teams are going to be amazing for us. They're going to show us some amazing matchups over these next few days.
Yeah, we're really coming through with not only the 4 group winners, but now we've also got the 4 regional champions as well. You're adding the Taipei Assassins, Team WE, Team Solo Mid, and M5 BenQ, who are like, hey, we're the best of our region. Hey, number 2, come step up to the big boys. Let's see if you can do it.
So team, Freak, there are 4 new teams, new strategies, and these teams are representing all the players in their regions in some of these beautiful dream matchups this weekend.
It's going to be really interesting because you're going to have, a second Chinese team here. You're going to have the Taiwanese team here. You've got really the best American team showing up as well. So they're not only representing their region and saying, hey, here's what North America's about. Here's what Europe's really about. Here's what Asia's really about. And, representing their own players. But they're bringing out their own style and their own little unique tricks, their own strategies to bring out a lot of new tricks into this game.
And Freak, a culmination of a year's worth of work between all of these teams. We are here to decide which 2 will earn the privilege to battle it out of the World Finals at the Galen Center on October 13th for that $2 million prize pool.
And there is so much more money on the line. The dollar amounts just keep going up and up and up. Sure, last place got $25,000 here, but first place, if you win it all, if you keep winning, $1 million goes to the first place team. $1 million, that's a 7-digit number if you don't count cents to the first place team. It's a freaking lot of money.
And before we begin, let's take a quick look at how the World Championships work. We went over this a few times, but let's do it again. The tournament does span 4 days, and the first 3 were the playoffs, where the top 12 teams get reduced to 2 as we go through the quarters, and the semifinals. Next week, these two teams battle it out at the Galen Center in the finals to determine the Season 2 World Champion. Today, 6 of the remaining 8 will battle it out in the quarterfinals. Freak, each match is going to be a best of 3 single elimination. Mistakes can be made, but they can't be made that much. The winner immediately advancing into the semifinals, but the loser is going to be going home, but with $75,000.
Yeah, so today, again, the quarterfinals are starting, but yesterday we did see 8 amazing teams battle it out in the group stages. To recap, Group A had 2 Asian teams coming through, the Zubu Frost and Invictus Gaming from Korea and China, respectively. Unfortunately, the Americans from CLG NA and the Europeans of SK Gaming did not quite make it through. In Group B, we saw more domination and great teams overall, with Najin Sword winning in from Korea, going 3-0, Counterlogic Gaming EU making it out in second place, and the unfortunate exit from Dignitas and Saigon Jokers not quite putting up enough effort to get themselves through. These were amazing games overall, though. Let's take a look at the highlights from the first day's action.
The first match of the day featured Azubu Frost, the #1 seed out of Korea, against Invictus Gaming, the second-ranked team from China. Right out of the gates, both teams displayed heavy aggression, and after picking up first blood, Invictus held the lead for most of the early game. Azubu Frost responded by stealing Baron at 23 minutes and used that momentum to push their way to the first win of the day. Up next for Invictus Gaming was fan favorite CLG Prime. Invictus came out strong, picking up first blood for the second game in a row, this time catching double lift out of position. Not wanting to go down 0-2 early in the group stage, Invictus steamrolled CLG to keep themselves in the hunt for a spot in the quarterfinals. Europe's SK Gaming was up next to take on Azubu Frost. But SK was no match for the champions from Korea. Azubu Frost completely outclassed SK, winning by 10 kills, nearly 20,000 gold, and didn't give up a tower the entire game. The win moved Azubu Frost to 2-0, making them a near shoo-in for the quarterfinals. Two teams that were struggling to make the next round, SK Gaming and CLG Prime, squared off, with each team looking for their first win of the day. CLG came out with a triple teleport split push strategy that they've become very well known for. It was a back and forth match that led to a photo finish where CLG Prime completely surprised SK Gaming. CLG tried to build off of that momentum and even secured first blood in their next game against Azubu Frost, but the Korean team showed why they were unbeaten on the day. They dominated CLG early and never let up. They would secure the victory and their place atop the Group A standings. SK went into the last game of Group A with their tournament lives on the line against Invictus. But it wasn't meant to be for SK, as Invictus' hard initiate comp allowed them to tower dive over and over, eventually leading to a win and a berth into the quarterfinals. The first game in Group B was a matchup of Team Dignitas versus CLG EU, two teams who, surprisingly, have never faced each other at a live event. Dignitas came out with an old-school roaming Taric strategy that allowed them to secure first blood. But despite the pressure from this strategy, CLG was just too good. They overwhelmed Dignitas to pick up the first win in Group B. The next game featured the Saigon Jokers, a surprise qualifier from Vietnam, facing off against MacNoon's Najin Sword, the second seed from Korea. And MacNoon was unstoppable. Well, almost. Najin Sword's next game would prove tougher as they went up against CLG Europe. It would also highlight MacNoon versus Wicked, two of the best top laners in the game. Wicked got the upper hand early, resulting in an 0-2 start for MacNoon. But it's hard to keep MacNoon down, and that was clear after he teleported solo into 4 CLG members to secure an inhibitor. His play lifted Najin Sword to their second win in a row. Dignitas, looking for their first win of the group, ran into the aggressive Saigon Jokers. The Jokers made a plan to bully Skara, and they beat him into the ground. Dignitas was never able to respond, and the Saigon Jokers Archie would finish them off with a quadra kill. The win kept the Saigon Jokers' hopes alive, and unfortunately for Dignitas, it meant they were out of the tournament. Perhaps the most important game of CLGU's career, they needed a win against the Saigon Jokers in order to secure their spot in the quarterfinals. The action in the top lane was intense. Led by Wicked, CLGEU put massive pressure on Saigon's QTV, and just when it looked like Saigon had an answer, Froggen was there to clean up.
Nice!
Froggen also manufactured an otherworldly farming performance on Karthus by killing 396 minions at the end of the 29-minute game. The Saigon Jokers put up a valiant effort, but their Cinderella story came to an end when CLG EU pushed their way to victory. CLG now joins Najin Sword as the second team advancing out of Group B. In the last game of the day, Dignitas was playing for pride, trying to avoid an 0-3 finish. But the night belonged to MacNoon and Najin Sword, who denied Dignitas a group stage win. At the end of group play, quarterfinal matchups were drawn live on stage. From Group A, Invictus Gaming drew Moscow 5, while Azubu Frost picked Team Solo Mid. From Group B, CLG EU drew World Elite, and Najee Sword will face off against the Taipei Assassins.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. We are here and we are ready to kick off this tournament. We have tons of action in store for you today. Let's go to the main stage where our hosts are eagerly waiting to kick off the second day of the Season 2 World Championships.
What is up, Summoners? You guys ready for today? I'm Marcus Graham, a.k.a. DJ Wheat.
And I'm Rachel Seltzer-Querico. Yesterday, we witnessed some of the best League of Legends games ever played. That is until today, because we have 3 amazing matchups lined up for you guys.
That's right. Coming up first, China's Invictus Gaming emerges from the Group A stage to take on EU's dominant #1 seed. That, of course, being Russia's Moscow 5. Now, there is a lot of really interesting storyline that intertwines in this matchup itself. You talk about the Chinese team, Invictus Gaming, and the fact that hopes and expectations of millions of Chinese League of Legends fans pretty much rests on this team's shoulders. So you can imagine just how excited they are to see this team featured on the stage live here at LA Live. However, we got one IG fan over here. However, the other really interesting part of the storyline is, of course, Moscow 5. They've pretty much existed and competed and been very successful in almost a little bubble inside their own regions. And now they get to test all of their strategies, all of their play styles right here on foreign soil for the first time. So, we can talk about this matchup all day long, but let's go ahead and introduce these teams and kick off with day 2 of the World Playoffs. Ladies and gentlemen, they came out of Group A with a 2-1 record, starting as the red team from China. Let's give it up for Invictus Gaming! In the top lane, give it up for PDD!
At AP Carry, it's Zatai.
In the jungle, give it up for Illusion!
Playing support, we have Zhao Zhao.
And last but not least, at AD Carry, it's Kid! Let's hear it one more time for Invictus Gaming!
And now, starting as the blue team, they won the EU Regionals in a dominant fashion, and they are a favorite to take home the Season 2 championships. Please welcome M5 BenQ! Starting things off in top lane, it's Darian!
In the jungle for M5, give it up for Diamond Prox!
At AP Carry, you know him, he's Alex Ich!
The AD Carry, it's Genja!
And as support, we have Gosu Pepper! Let's hear it one more time for BenQ-M5!
Both teams look like they are ready to go. I have a feeling that you guys are just as pumped up for these matches as the teams are. Let's shoot it over to our casters. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Riv and Freak.
All right, guys, thanks from the stage. All these games today are going to be absolutely fantastic, but I'm particularly excited about this matchup coming up, Freak. It's going to be a matchup of the firsts.
This is really the first time both of these teams are playing on foreign soil, and it's the first time they're playing each other either. These guys have not squared off against each other ever before. These guys have not played in America ever before. I guess if you count yesterday for Invictus, they've got that. But overall, these guys are really coming out and proving themselves against each other for the first time. It's so hard to call. You can't really make any predictions here.
So before we analyze the keys to the match and we get into all that, we had a chance to sit down with both of these teams and get their impressions about facing off in the quarterfinals. Let's see what they had to say.
最不想遇到 M5，但是以我们自己的就是心里想的话，其实我们很想碰 M5的，因为就是要始终要跟就是能这么快跟世界就是顶级战队一战。
They are top Chinese team. They did some interesting moves. They play really aggressive. That are the advantages. Still, we feel pretty confident, so we will do our best. The strategy is that it is one of the top teams, and we will only meet them if everything goes perfect from our side and from their side only in finals. We should not do mistakes and play our best. It's play your best and you win in this game.
And there you have it, Freak. Moscow 5 BenQ looked unstoppable at the EU Regionals, and I think everybody thought so as well. So let's take a look at what Invictus has to do to take them down, that aggression, that innovation of the strats. And really, it's to get ahead early.
And that's really what they've been trying to do this whole tournament. They got, first blood, I think, in most of their matches. Even against such a heavy favorite like a Zubu Frost, they started out with a bunch of crazy gimmicks to get themselves first blood and a lot of early leads. I think that's really, really where their power lies, is just starting things off on the right foot, crushing from minute one, and then not letting up.
All right, and if they can do that, or if it falters, we saw it yesterday playing absolutely amazing, a quadra kill in the highlight video. They just need to play around Kid.
Kid is phenomenal. He is seemingly their best player, at least right now. It's kind of how this works, really, when you get to a LAN tournament, is all of your players could be on equal footing and they could all be equally skilled, but someone always steps up to the plate when it matters the most. There's that guy who's just clutch and just says, hey, guys, this is my tournament. I'm going to put you all on my back. I'll 1v9. It's cool. Let's just do this. And right now, this is Kid. They've set up Kid for a lot of kills. It's a lot of how Invictus has gotten so far, is that man has been just putting on a gigantic backpack, putting everyone inside of it, and just running around hiking with his team. And they've got to rely on him here.
And starting it off, really bringing it to us with that Janna Shyvana roam. They need to be aware of that Moscow 5 BenQ roam.
Yeah, Moscow 5's really big strategy overall is going around as a team and being super aggressive in very focused points and sort of orchestrating their early mid-game aggression as a strategy instead of sort of as sort of a counteraction. They're intending to put pressure on certain places at certain times, and they've got to be ready for that. They've seen a lot of matches of M5 BenQ. Invictus does know the types of strategies they run, the types of champions they like to pick. There's a lot of tape for them to watch. They need to be prepared for all of these moves.
It's going to be big. So those are the keys for Invictus Gaming. And now Moscow 5 playing their first game of the weekend here, the championship playoffs. Let's see what they have to do to get themselves into this. The first thing is, with that early aggression coming from Invictus, Moscow 5 is very good at team fights. So if they can get to force those, it'll be very advantageous.
This is the number one thing that Moscow 5 is great at. There's a lot of teams that are hailed for great team fight synergy, a lot of the Korean teams, CLG EU as well, but M5 BenQ are phenomenal team fighters themselves as well. Now, when they're up against a team like Invictus, their early aggression is really strong, and M5 in general as a team are very good at opening a lot of early aggression themselves, but their team fighting is always so flawless. Their cohesion as a unit, they haven't had a roster swap since Season 2 really started, so they've got each other's play styles memorized. They know how to play around each other. Their team fighting is always going to be impeccable here, and they need to play to that strength.
And the second key for Moscow 5 is not necessarily be aggressive, but stay on the offensive. Be sure of those wards and really focus on the objectives as well.
We've seen this throughout the tournament so far, is that, aggressive teams on both sides will keep picking up kills. When you go back to the very first game of Invictus versus Frost, it wasn't Frost saying, oh crap, you're aggressive, we'll play defensive and defend turrets and then team fight in the end. No, they were trading kills back and forth. Frost was setting up ganks constantly, and they just kept racking up kills on both sides. That made the early game equal overall, and then Frost won in team fights. They need to do the exact same here as M5 BenQ. They're going to get ganked, and they're going to take some damage, and they're going to lose some kills once in a while, but they need to set up their own fights and turn those back every single time and just keep that score moving upward.
And as you just made mention to, Freak, getting ganked, they need to be ready for that counter gank, or two counter gank.
Exactly. Diamond needs to be on his A game right now and realize that Illusion's going to dive some turrets and set up a lot of kills. He needs to be ready for that one and show up to help his team out. It's kind of what we talked about in the first game as well, where they're going to try to set up these 3v2s on turrets or 2v1s on turrets, and if Diamond shows up and makes that a 3v3 or a 2v2, M5 BenQ is going to do great. So as long as they're watchful, put on a bunch of aggression, react to the moves that Invictus makes, they're going to be okay.
All right, guys, so we've told you what we think these teams have to do to win, but we want to hear from you. Send us your questions about today's matchups of the Season 2 World Playoffs on Twitter using the hashtag LOLWorlds, and we'll take some of your questions and answer them later live on the air.
So, guys, this is just an amazing match. And we know Moscow 5 BenQ are coming in as this huge favorite. Invictus in their interview said, we're a little bit worried. We didn't really want to draw them, but at the same time, it's nice to get that experience and play such a phenomenal team. And, you see Alex from M5 saying, yeah, we're the favorite. If we just play our game properly, we're probably just going to win. And sure, a lot of that's true. They're a very heavy favorite. They're a very, very strong team. But even still, there's a lot of skill on both these sides. I just cannot call it. I would have thought at the beginning, yeah, M5 looks really strong, but you don't really know there. They're unproven in America, and Invictus looked really, really good yesterday.
Freak, when we were getting here, there's computers set up for the players all around, and Moscow 5 was one of the teams that always be at the computers. Even though they weren't playing until this day, figuring out and not even knowing who they were going to play against until the picks, we really just saw that they were always dedicated to training and practicing when other teams are going out to eat and discuss. So we'll see if that comes into play here. We're now into champion select. As you can see, Maokai and Alistair thrown out there. A little focus on the jungle as well as that support. Gragas and Nunu as well to try and cut out some of those compositions that could be created.
This is really both these teams doing a lot of homework and recognizing what the other team does and also kind of banning for themselves as well. So M5, they're dropping out a lot of those support-oriented junglers because their real goal with Diamond is to have him counter jungle and fight. Things like Shyvana, Lee Sin, and Udyr, who are going to put out a lot of aggressive early on by fighting and punching people in the face. Those are the kind of champions he likes to play. Those are the ones he does best. And IG, that's what I thought they were going to go for. After they banned that Gragas, the Nunu, then the Sona ban, those are the two supports pretty much that Ghosty Pepper plays all the time. Those are his top two supports. They're dropping both those out. The crowd cheering because they know Diamond is famous for that Lee Sin. He's going to be putting out a lot of aggression in this game.
Does look like he has that pick, so we will see an aggressive game from Moscow 5. You usually see Diamond in the bottom lane quite early with this Lee Sin. If you can see a fast red, they are in the blue team, Freak, so that really plays to their advantage. The Shen being picked up, and we've just seen him really wreaking havoc this entire tournament, especially on Mac Team.
Yeah, Shen's been phenomenal all game, really, and actually looks like they've instantly locked in York, so that will be a jungle Shen, and I'm a little bit surprised by that, because you just referenced Mach Noonan. Yeah, he was playing top lane Shen and being very dominant there, but we've seen more often than not this tournament, actually, Shen's been in the jungle, which is very contrary to what happened at the North American regionals, where I think he was every single time top lane. So these teams are really choosing different applications for these champions and really creating a lot of different strategies here. Now we're looking at a possible Zyra for the first time in this tournament. And so these teams, right off the bat, are bringing out things that we don't normally see in other regions or haven't seen even in this tournament just yet as these guys go through. So to recap some of these picks right here, right, Darian's going to be most likely jungling on Lee Sin. He's very, very mobile, very aggressive, picks up kills a lot, great at fighting. The two pickups for Invictus Gaming. Now we've seen Shen a few times. He's a very beefy tank. He's supportive. He teleports around the map to his teammates and provides them shields. So he's very tanky. He makes his teammates tanky. He makes those fights go very well. The Yorick grab is a total just jerk of a laner. He bullies people. And there it is, the crowd cheering. Evelynn finally getting picked up in this tournament. She was banned a number of times, was banned 100% of the time against Najee's sword. And they're like, no, Eve is going in here. She's going to be an AP carry in mid. She's really, really a heavy assassin. Expect her to go Deathfire Grasp and blow up someone on the back line. The difficulty, though, is she's actually against both Shen and Yorick. So, when he tries to burst someone down, if that guy gets a Shen shield in time, it's going to completely screw over her damage output. That guy will likely survive the burst. And similarly with Yorick, even if you kill that champion, if he ults your friend, that guy's going to revive and fight again for a short time. And so as far as team fights go, I actually like Invictus' lineup here for a team fight, although if M5 plays more of an assassin-based gameplay with Alex Ish on Evelynn, then they're going to be able to pick up those kills and then retreat and then come back in later. I don't quite know how it's going to play out, but there's a lot of damage being built up so far.
So Diamond Prox gets his Lee Sin, but Kid also getting Ezreal. Cassiopeia also seeing a lot of playtime in the tournament.
Yeah, Cassiopeia's been really, really popular. Normally picked as really a pusher or anti-pusher. She has really great area of effect and shuts down a lot of options there when the opposing team tries to jump in. Also, she's a very defensive mage. That ultimate Petrifying Gaze, it works best when they're coming at you because it stuns you when you're facing her, and generally that happens when you're trying to fight as opposed to trying to run away. So it's interesting that they're doing that, but there's also a really strong combo here with Cassiopeia Yorick. Cassiopeia, much like Karthus, has extremely high damage output, especially later on when she scales with ability power. The weakness, though, is that unlike Karthus, when Cassiopeia dies, she actually dies and is removed from the map until she respawns. Unless, of course, you have Yorick on your team. And his ultimate, as we mentioned a few seconds ago, will kind of clone your champion. If you die, you'll actually get revived and fight again for a few more seconds. And so when you're a high damage mage like Cassiopeia, you die, you come back anyway and keep fighting. It's very difficult to deal with. So there is a lot of late game power here on Invictus, but at the same time, M5 is also picking up a lot of power for themselves.
Yeah, and that pick actually on Yorick, as you were just speaking, those lock-ins of Xin and Zyra, every time that Yorick is available, IG has taken him when it's not banned. Xin and Zyra being picked out here. It could be the Jungle Eve, or we're going to see a swap around here from Moscow 5. It's really untellable.
I think it's support Zyra, actually.
Right.
And Janook is so happy right now because that's the only champion he can play. Sorry, just my friend. Anyway, yeah, we've got the game going underway very, very soon. Moscow 5's lineup is really, really interesting because it is a lot of crowd control, a lot of area control, and it's just like, okay, so it's going to be Kog'Maw on the back line killing people, and then everyone else just kind of get in the way and deal with all the other threats. This is going to be pretty interesting. Lee Sin's going to be very aggressive, going to move around the map, make a lot of moves. Evelynn can move around the map and set up a lot of ganks as well. So right off the bat, that early mid game for Moscow 5 is really, really strong. Lee Sin, again, Lee Sin and Evelynn together are going to make a lot of moves. It'll be very, very difficult to deal with that. And then just at the end of the game, they've still got Zyra, who will eventually get fed no matter what. She'll just accrue gold and then scale really well throughout the game. And of course, they've got Kog'Maw, who is really the king of late game AD carries. That once he finally gets his items going, he's got long range, a lot of damage output that scales throughout the game, and just is going to just melt people as a piece of artillery. It's going to be really scary to deal with an end-game Kog'Maw. If you see that game go to 35 or 40 minutes, watch for Kog'Maw to be really the focus of attention for both teams. We've seen Invictus play very dive-heavy strategies over and over again where they will try to jump onto a single carry. This time they don't actually have that. Yes, they've got Leona. She can set up those situations. Shen can kind of dive in and put in some damage, but because they have that top lane Yorick, and because their mid lane is Cassiopeia, they don't really have that same burst potential that we saw.
Right.
When you had like Malphite and Leona together, or Nocturne and Leona together, where they will absolutely dive that one champion. So Kog'Maw, I feel, is going to be pretty safe in this lineup. Actually, outside the laning phase being a bit tricky, having to fight against Leona Ezreal, if you can survive that laning phase, Genji's going to do really, really well on Kog'Maw this game.
It's going to be great for them bottom. They do have the crowd control to help Kog'Maw get out. A little bit squishy, so he's going to have to use that Void Ooze, get himself out of the lane. Zyra's going to be able to put out a lot more damage than the regular support, though, so that'll be a great bottom lane for them. The Xin pickup is great. More crowd control. You'll see him coming out of nowhere, possibly. Also, Lee Sin as well. The entire kill team all around the map. And still, as they switch, looks like Diamond is taking that. Alex Isha is going to be on Eve for that mid-AP burst, as you were saying, the Deathfire Grasp into that back line. And they just have a team that is going to be complete dive buddies here.
Yeah, this is really the inverse of IG's lineup, where it's like, guys, let's team fight. We've got defense, we've got Petrifying Gaze and shields and revives, and Ezreal super safe in general. So, yeah, IG's lineup is all about surviving and just having a nice grand 5-on-5 team fight and just, going about their way, killing things, which is great. M5's is like literally just about killing things. Everyone on that lineup is full out offense. It is just like destroy champions over and over. And this is interesting because I don't see this type of lineup very often. I don't see constant all-in champions from literally everyone. I mean, even Leona is like a little bit all in, but like has some tankiness in her kit. Kind of initiates fights with the crowd control. Not so much with M5. There's almost no dedicated crowd control with this lineup. You've got a knock-up kind of conditional from Xin Zhao. You've got a knockback that's kind of conditional as well. Lee Sin's got his dragon kicks. Like there's technically crowd control here on Moscow 5, but not something like Dazzle or Solar Flare or Unstoppable Force where they like lock up targets. It's like a bunch of pushbacks and like temporary crowd controls, and it's just damage everywhere. And if it's enough to completely overpower Shen and Yorick, then great, it's going to work out for M5. I think they have a lot of front-loader damage output, and again, if they can't deal with Kog'Maw, which actually seems unlikely, that after the burst is done, they've still got Xin Zhao and a little bit of Zyra, depending on her gold, and definitely Kog'Maw, just pumping out even more pain there. And yeah, I think, as it sort of plays out towards the mid and end game, M5 just has the damage up that they need to just keep killing things overall. I think their lineup is really, really strong. IG's is very standard. It's very safe. It'll work overall. But the 5 kill people champions for M5, that's actually really, really good too.
So, Freak, both of these teams being very aggressive, but with what they're bringing to the table with no sustain and everybody having to focus very early on their own spell vamp or lifesteal, how do you think that's going to affect the early game with those purchases having to come through?
It's going to be a little bit interesting here. Alex Ish is going to take some pain overall in his matchup because he's against a ranged champion. He will take some poke from Cassiopeia. Eve vs. Cass is not the best match overall, but we're going to find out what is going to happen in this game. Guys, are you ready for Game 1 of the quarterfinals?
The teams have made their selections and are about to start Day 2 of the Season 2 Championships, ladies and gentlemen. They're pumped. We're ready to get into this game. The teams are set. Moscow 5, BenQ starting as the blue team, Invictus Gaming as the purple team. And we are now into the matchup. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to see Invictus Gaming take Game 1 of this best of 3, let me hear you for IG.
And as we get ourselves into the game, I want to gauge who's a fan here of M5 BenQ.
The other teams are poised and ready, as you see on your screen. And we are going to jump into this early game laning phase here, ladies and gentlemen. 30 seconds on the clock. Nobody's really pushing each other out of any jungles. Alex Ish, however, roaming around here. The ward goes down, so they won't get the invade up top. But that's huge vision for Alex. They're going to be able to inform their team about that right away.
So let's see what happens here, right? So the ward goes down. It's been pinged. And really, both of these teams are setting up pretty safely on the map. You can see them kind of standing around an early ward there from Invictus, looking for an early invade from M5. But overall, they're just looking and kind of being very, very watchful of invades. No one's grouping up to make any major moves. Now, a minute in, that's when you would see a team probably group up they wanted for an invade. And look at that. With Shen up towards the top, everyone else from IG is actually grouping up near the bottom half of the map. They're moving in down towards this brush. Oh, and another ward comes down. They definitely want to put a bit of pressure down here and really spot out what might be happening. They're warding a lot. They're really, really looking for invades. They kind of went down actually as safety in numbers. I think actually just to put the ward down safely. Looks like Invictus really don't want to go for any kind of a cheeky push, so they're pretty safe. And wow, Alex Ish is actually in that brush that was used earlier in that first game against Frost that they kind of jumped over to. So he definitely did his research as well.
Yeah, everybody has been watching. We see that Xiao Xiao taking out 6 wards and the potion for himself. So he's really trying to get this early game for his team and not allow them to open that early aggression up. 2 minutes up here. It looks like they may do a switch or just a hard pull for Shen here and teleport down to that bottom lane. However, it looks like they're going to stay. Kid is heading towards that tri-bush, so they do have the swap coming out. And we're going to have Yorick with a blue buff against Kog'Maw in the support Zyra bottom.
And this is a strategy they've tried multiple times, and it has always worked. Now, if you look back to the E regionals, Kevin actually screwed up this full, but I think PDD is going to be okay here. Just taking it up, dealing as much damage as possible. Now, he didn't run teleport, though, so he's going to take a little bit of wasted time as he gets himself back into the lane, stuck in a 1-on-2.
Here's the roam. The flashes go off, and the Zenith Blade just missing by a hair. A very early gank coming from Invictus.
This is really, really strong overall from Invictus, though. The gank didn't really work so well, but that's not the worst thing in the world. What they've got, though, is a really strong 2-on-1 and 1-on-2 lane here. Kid and Xiao Xiao should be able to completely shut down Darien. Xin Zhao does not have tools. He hasn't even learned his first skill yet because he doesn't even know what kind of fight he's going to get into. But he's going to have a very, very tough time in this top lane. Whereas Yorick with the Golem buff, really not the end of the world. Now, it does mean that Genja gets a completely free lane, so they're not going to be able to shut down Kog'Maw. you know, Ezreal and Leona together should be able to put a lot of damage off onto a lane like that. But even still, shutting down Darien is just as important as shutting down Genja, and they're going to be able to do this here.
Looks like Darien now still playing aggressive without that flash up top. And they do see that in the jungle. However, here is the counter gank. That point to victory that they need to work on, and they're going to get it right here, but it's a 3v2. There's a lot of crowd control to come in, and they see Darien coming from the backside. So much damage on the Moscow. Fine! First blood going to Illusion with the assists to the AD and support.
That was actually pretty unfortunate there, right as Diamond showed up. I think he expected Illusion to be nearby. He was waiting in the background, really timing that. But the thing is, once he's safeguarded over, they just both got hit by Shadow Dash. He was really unable to counterattack the entire time and wasn't able to force Kid to stop swinging. So a lot of damage coming out there. And Illusion, yeah, that first blood really, really good. Now, M5 are making some moves themselves, but you've got to realize that they're actually pushing very, very hard onto PDD and that bottom turret. Genja no longer with turret aggro, should be able to put out a lot of damage. And he's actually swinging for minions instead of the turret, though. It looks like M5 actually not trying for an early turret kill. This actually plays actually a turret
Invictus
dive
super
again.
pushing top lane. The full minion wave is there, but Leona took too much damage off the bat. I don't think they're going to be able to continue with this.
Nice move up by Darien, though. He bought a lot of time, and oh, wow. He got an early red elixir there as well, so he can spike his health back up just in case something tricky happens to him.
Again, PDD being pushed out bottom with that blue buff. He's able to help himself. They are 700 gold in the lead from that first blood, and the assists tagged onto that. Illusion returning to his jungle. He has not gone back to buy yet, but he does have a good amount of money under his belt. Right now, the most in the game, 927 gold to himself as the jungler. That's really going to help his presence in lane once he goes through these camps, and then he's really just going to be able to forget about the camps for a little bit and use that time to help out the lanes a lot more.
Yeah, I do expect to see these junglers ganking very constantly throughout this game. This plays really to their overall play style. York, though, kind of going back into the jungle, though, kind of unsafe in his lane. I don't know if he Spidey sensed Diamond being around, but he did retreat. His mid lane actually is pretty difficult for Alex East. This is really what happens, though. You know, like I said, the Cassiopeia, a bit of a counterpick. Diving in on the turret, Ignite is on as well. This could be enough. It is! Z-Tai picking up the second kill of the match. And like I said, that lane is a bit of a mismatch there. That Cassiopeia was grabbed, I'm pretty sure, as a counterpick to Evelynn, knowing that melee champions have a very tough time dealing with Cassiopeia.
Initiation onto Darien top once again to force him out of lane. No kill there, but he is having such a hard time. Top 12 to PDD's 22, and he's forced to buy that red elixir. The gold just going to situational events that haven't even happened yet.
And Illusion is flanking around from the jungle as well. Diamond, once again, he's ready for it. Look at that foresight, and he finds Illusion there coming in on the turret.
Here's that counter gank. Once again, a beautiful shot. Leona getting herself out of range of the turret, but Kid is under it. Good micro back and forth, and Diamond is forced out once again.
But that was really the move they needed to make, though. Yeah, Diamond took some damage, but it was going to be a 3-on-1 at the turret otherwise. Now, maybe if he didn't get spotted, they could try to force something and let the turret fight the entire time, but even still, not letting those turret dives work against Darien is really advantageous because the minion wave is pushing down a little bit. Darien is going to get a bit more time to farm. He's finally at 16 minions, which isn't the end of the world, though obviously not exactly optimal. He's still going to get to scale up through this game, and one thankful thing about Xin Zhao is that he does scale great with levels, and the fact that he's not getting completely forced out of lane means he will still gain experience and eventually catch up in this game, even if he doesn't quite get a lot of items.
Looks like Lee Sin's Diamond procs. He's going to be going, pushing mid a little bit. He's going to be going for that Wriggles. They're a little objective focused here, trying to get that armor in. As he sees, there's just so much damage coming from top lane, and that's where he's going to have to help. He does not need to work with bottom lane right now. That Zyra Kog'Maw can push very well. Top lane still pushing. They're almost equal on bottom and top here, just 75% of that push. Kid and Xiao Xiao just looking to go back here. Let's see how much money they have under their belt. It is going to be 1,500 gold right now for Kid. See what he gets. He can get a really good burst of damage coming out of that after his buy.
It's likely that he's going to go for Trinity Force, especially that Phage early on. It's one of those items you pick up to try to shut down a lane when you're kind of ahead a little bit, because those extra slows coming out from the item will really help you pick down an opponent. Diamond making his second rotation through the jungle just now, and that's going to be matched, of course, by PDD running off for the Golem buff as well. But as they clear out the jungle camps here and try to get their buffs back, expect the junglers to re-aggress here. Diamond with the fresh Blizzard buff, Illusion the same for himself. You're going to see them make their ways back to the side lanes for more damage.
Shen once again picking up his red. We'll probably see Illusion top, but the warding now quite heavy. They're going to go down in about 30 seconds in that top lane, so he may be able to walk past those after they go down. They know that Alex is kind of wandering around here. And they start to look very cautiously. They're only going to see him when he gets slightly in range. And we can also see Kid and Xiao Xiao trying to make a move to help out there.
Yeah, so Alex is going for the golem buff right here. He's getting that golem buff for himself finally. That will allow him to finally start pushing the minion wave out. And now that Evelynn has finally leveled up a bit, she's got rank 4 in Hate Strike. This will, or Hate Spike rather. This will allow her to shove the minions around and then finally start roaming. You really want to hit level 6 first before you ever make these moves as Eve. That gives you all the burst damage you want. But you can see Alex now being pushed down to his turret. He's going to have to just try the last hit here pretty successfully, actually, under the turret. Get his gold back up. He's still, though, getting zoned by Cassiopeia. Look at that. She denied all 3 ranged minions by saying, if you walk up to this, you're going to take way too much burst. Would be in range for Petrifying Gaze. Alex knew this and had to completely back off and miss minion kills. This lane matchup still very, very difficult. Genja, though, still in that 2-on-1 is not taking any pressure. You can see 69 minions on him, getting a lot of farm, completely ahead of Kids Ezreal here. It's going to be the Genja show this game because no one else is having a great game yet on Moscow 5.
Oh, coming into the bush, Evelynn goes right onto Zatai. Alex Ish forced to run out of that one, but you saw him do half Health Freak, and with that amount of damage, looks like they're going to try to pressure the dragon here. True Shot Barrage coming down right through. Diamondprox quickly gets the dragon, safeguards to a ward, and keeps himself alive. Beautifully played there. 9 minutes and 20 seconds in the game. Now, Freak, we see this matchup between Evelynn and Cassiopeia in mid where Evelynn just taking so much damage every engage. But is there a point in the game where that's going to turn the tide and she's just going to be able to outburst Cassiopeia?
It's going to depend a lot on gold. Typically, though, Evelynn, yes, is a great burst assassin, and really I would consider assassins to be one of the banes of Cassiopeia, is that, she will try to itemize some durability, but still does not have any major escape tools, compared to something like Ahri or Gragas who can disengage very safely. So Cassiopeia will be subject to a lot of pressure as mid-game rolls around. But like I said, Cassiopeia likes to buy a little bit of durability. Rod of Ages and Abyssal Scepter are likely purchases here, and so you'll see her get a little bit more safe. The Chalice really the first item she's grabbed out. It's going to give her some magic resist. That's the type of stat she needs to survive fighting Evelynn. Now Alex, I think he's going to start his roam game. No, actually, he's just going to recall. I'm wrong. His ultimate, though, up in 20 seconds. Whenever that's up, he wants to try to make a move with that. And actually, he might make a move with Diamond here.
They do close in on Diamond. He goes for the Asthma, and he comes around the corner, playing that Fog of War to his advantage. A great flash by Zatai as he puts himself quite distance from both Alex and Diamond. Doesn't get himself any of those wraiths as they were gone. He almost found himself in trouble. 10 minutes into the game, Invictus Gaming with about 1,000, just under 1,000 gold lead, I should say. And there's been a lot of aggression that's kind of stopped. They really haven't seen too much lately.
They haven't tower dove really in a long time, and I'm kind of surprised at that because they have Illusion, who's going to be so very tanky and can really set up his team for successful tower dives by giving someone a shield. And really, that's going to be always a really good case here for Invictus because when you just compare junglers, Lee Sin to Shen, one of these guys is so much better at diving turrets because one of these guys is a global ultimate and can react to those kind of situations. I don't expect to see actually Moscow 5 go for any dives themselves because of that Shen, because of that Stand United, but I do really expect Invictus to go for something here. I don't think their late game is going to be all that wonderful because they have to deal with a completely safe farming Kog'Maw. He's now got 86. He's the highest on his team. Sure, Cassiopeia's a bit richer thanks to that gold, but it's still really scary though. Kog'Maw's going to keep scaling.
Evelynn just on the backside of Darien. Alex Ish throws off the ultimate. Xiao Xiao tries to do Solar Flare. They're keen to continue to chase onto Darien, but Diamondprox come in to try to save the fight. Beautiful chase by Alex Ish, and now it's just Kid and Illusion to run. They are just trying to get back to the turret. The pursuit is on. Nobody is really out there coming to this fight. Zatai is trying to make his way upriver through Baron. Illusion goes down, but Zatai will not make it in time. Kid does make it out alive. 2-2 is the score now.
Really nice job. That is exactly the kind of gameplay that M5 BenQ wanted there, was putting their jungler and their mid lane together and getting Alex Ish to roam. He does like to put that pressure on. He is a roaming mid laner, and that is the kind of move he needs to make over and over to get his lanes back in. Darien with an assist and finally some pressure relief so he can last hit some minions is going to really help him. He's going to be one of those big frontline champions. And when you look at M5's lineup, they've got double bruiser and no major tank. So between Lee Sin and Xin Zhao, they could get melted by Kids Ezreal. If you don't buy any major durability items, an AD carry will completely outscale you and really, really ruin your day. So M5 either needs to rely on their bruisers getting farmed enough to become tanks based on levels and sort of minor tanky items, or to get farmed enough that they can one-shot Ezreal in a burst combo and not deal with it at all. But M5 is going to need one of those two avenues to be able to deal with Kid.
True Shot Barrage coming out, just trying to push down the lane as it looks like they're going to try and get it back here. Looking at Ezreal's pockets, he does have 1,000 gold there, an assist under his belt. but it's going to be to 107 minions on Kog'Maw. He was trying to finish a little bit of attack speed first. Looks like he could go for Zeal, throwing out that Brawler's Glove right away.
Yeah, it's basically the build you see on Kog'Maw is that, where a lot of attack... It's actually really interesting, though. These attack damage carries scale off of different items. So someone like Graves or Caitlyn or Ashe is going to deal mostly with basic attacks or even base ability damages will go for like an Infinity Edge or a Bloodthirster. Something like Kog'Maw is actually more worried about that Bio-Arcane Barrage, that second ability that grants him bonus range and makes him deal a percentage of his target's max health as bonus damage. So he scales really, really hard with attack speed. He just wants to put more attacks down. That ability will scale for itself, so he'll rush something like Phantom Dancer to grant him that attack speed, and then continue on with things like Infinity Edge and Last Whisper, and then transition to a more standard AD carry. Meanwhile, you're seeing Ezreal, who actually has his own unique skill set where he actually is able to apply abilities very often, and so buying a Trinity Force or Sheen, the Sheen he has right now, means that every ability he casts, he's going to deal bonus damage to the next attack, and he's going to be able to keep triggering that with Mystic Shot and keep that source of bonus damage. So these different items working in different ways with these champions based on what their abilities are. It's just kind of cool to see that they're going to have differing builds, and it just means that their playstyles are always going to differ here in fights.
We see Diamond moving down towards the bottom bushes, and it looks like he may try to get that forward bush push down on the bottom lane, but he just heads towards top, goes for his golems. You see Kid going back for the golems as well as they push that lane out. He doesn't feel safe. Leona did go back. The supports just grabbing up gold generation items right now. Damage mitigation in the magic resistance department down there for Zyra. Gosu knows he needs to be a little bit more aggressive on the support, so he's going to try to get into the fight more and make himself tanky as well. Supports usually helping out with those area of effect abilities for their teams. But we're going to see, like you said, Freak, a complete kill team. These guys are going to scale very hard, and in that aspect, who do you see having this late game?
The late game, I still think it might be the Kog'Maw story. I just overall like M5's lineup because they've got the burst damage to deal with Ezreal. Even though they can clone it, I still think it's pretty strong. They can kind of run in, one-shot someone, and then try to disengage, and then fight a 5-on-4 afterwards. And the entire time they're backed up by what I think is going to be a very, very safe Kog'Maw. I don't see the answer for Genja here. He's going to keep scaling, and that really is the ultimate reason why I like M5 BenQ's late game.
So we see 0 turrets down across the map. Dragon being done once again. It goes again as well. 2 on Moscow 5, BenQ. Diamondprox being very good with the timer on that, but the engage happens. Solar Flare goes out. Gosu Pepper goes down, but he gets his ultimate off. So that's going to help out a little bit for these guys as they push down. Moscow 5 just melting under the pressure right now. Too much damage is coming out. Diamondprox being chased. Genja cannot get under the turret. They will probably get both of them. It looks like Genja just got far enough away, but the chase is true strong from Kid. Nobody goes down for Invictus.
They're going to keep this going. They're going to turn this into some more pressure. That Yorick clone just tanking the turret. PDD's ghouls have to tank it for a short time, but now the backdoor bonus is there. They're going to pull back a little bit, and just look at all those kills they've picked up. That mid-game team fight, so very, very strong. Alex Ish really got caught unaware, did not get to use his ultimate or his Deathfire Grasp. So one of those core tenets of that M5 BenQ lineup, the burst damage to kill someone off right away, was completely not there in that fight. Darien, the same, never got to use Crescent Slash. They just do not have... they didn't use all their tools that game, whereas IG, you saw the Petrifying Gaze from the back slowing down the opposition, the flash taunt coming in from Illusion to lock up those champions there. That's really how that fight happened, was their ultimates got used, their summoners got used, they got all the damage output here. Alex didn't even get to flash or ignite, just again completely locked up there. That's going to be a major difficulty. This mid game, so very good, because if you can't cast your abilities, your burst damage is gone, and Genja here on Kog'Maw is not yet that scary.
Cassiopeia's versatility, you saw Petrifying Gaze there slowing everybody in the fight to continue capitalizing on kills. It was 2-2 as they picked up 4 in that last fight. 22,000 gold as they still keep a bit of a lead here. Alex Ish returning to mid lane, making sure nobody is in the wings to take him out, as Zitai will see him within that range. Diamondprox coming towards the middle here. Looks like he could try to safeguard up and get to this fight. The Deathfire Grasp goes off. Coming from behind, he could land the Q here. No, he goes for the safeguard first. The Q will hit a minion, unfortunately.
Oh, wow. And that was them getting a little bit too tricky for themselves. They knew Cassiopeia had Petrifying Gaze up. You kept seeing them like go in, then turn around, and he was like, nah, you're just going to juke yourselves. I'll just run away. Thanks. Yeah, that unfortunate Resonating Strike was, the Sonic Wave really was pretty unfortunate there. But even still, I just like the cute moves there.
Zenith over the wall, True Shot Barrage, but Kid, they're focusing Gosu. It's just going to leave Genja to throw out all the damage. He is more than happy to do that. Going down into the red buff as well. Diamond Prox looks like he could have a takedown on PDD here with the help of Darien. They will focus down. Yorick ulti is up again. They're able to chase one out, but it looks like they will pick up the kill there as well. And they go 1 for 1 across the map.
Oh, again, the pressure on the top lane, though. Shosho going to get crushed down. Nice gank by Alex Ish, making that one happen. That's the kind of gameplay, again, that M5 BenQ needs. And the cool thing as well is, again, Alex Ish is against the Cassiopeia in the mid lane. As long as he makes one good move and is able to dodge the Petrifying Gaze ultimate, they can just gank from within the lane. He can happily just run in, Deathfire grasp into ultimate, let Diamond just show up as well. And as long as he actually lands the Sonic Wave, he's going to be really, really good here.
Yeah, Alex not having fun in the early part of this game, as we mentioned, being flashed, ignited, and hit under his turret, Cassiopeia Poison and Ignite, taking him out, very roughed out of lane. So he's making this work for himself. He's controlling the ganks, going all the way around the lanes. You can see the pink ward in lane actually is Zitai, just does not want any trouble from Alex Ish.
And that's really true. That's going to be how Cassiopeia will play this matchup, is shove the minion wave, kind of watch where Alex is going. If he thinks aggression might happen, he's going to turn around and back right out. You saw him put a Vision Ward down in that mid lane because he wanted to make sure he could see if Alex would push on through. Now Invictus, knowing they have a gold advantage, are actually shoving in for turrets. This is exactly what they want to do. They know they're ahead. They need to push some objectives and really make this mid-game their own.
They're really timing all these waves perfectly. Getting to the tower as soon as they're getting a wave. There's no stalemate time to give Moscow 5 BenQ their time to transfer over to mid. So they continuously get turret damage down without really taking any themselves.
And this is just, again, just going to be their gameplay. With Cassiopeia, they've got wave clearing. With Shen, he can split push and teleport back to a team. This is really exactly what IG needs to do to win this game, is split up just a little bit, send Shen off to the side, and just apply pressure to the outside of the opponent's face. Now, they've gotten one turret so far, but they're going to go for that number 2. Shen, of course, going for that third up top. This is working perfectly for IG.
And here we go. The attack comes in. Petrifying Gaze. Solar Flare goes down. Zitai drops one as well. But Alex Ish will find Zitai in the fight. A lot of that carry damage has gone down. And they continue to just go for Gosu Pepper. Darien falls as well. Finally, we lose Xiao Xiao. And IG starts to lose members of their team. PDD, the last one to go. A double kill coming up for Kid. And they finally take down onto Kog'Maw. It is going to be Illusion coming in a little late there.
But Alex Ish making that turnaround, got himself a triple kill as Evelynn. That's going to be a huge deal overall. And that's, a difficulty there is Illusion, trying to show up at the end there, not putting out too much overall. And it was basically saying, hey guys, you can only focus so many champions. Because they have Yorick and Shen, who aren't huge damage dealers, all that pain is going to come out in burst. First of all, and then as far as persistent damage goes, it's just Cassiopeia and just Ezreal. And they were focused on killing Gosu Pepper, killing Genja, killing Diamond, and killing Darien, and Alex was left alone to fight the entire time. Let's take a look at a replay of that last fight, because it was neck and neck 4-4 when we see just what happened. So the initiation comes out, Cassiopeia with a lot of poke, and they're going to try to get the initiation. You're going to see there's the jump. They go immediately, but look at that perfect Petrifying Gaze. The burst just everywhere. Look at all the damage being dealt. But then Ezreal just chases down under the turret, dealing as much damage back there. Alex Ish is safe the entire time to kill whomever he wants and picks up kill after kill.
Now as they move to Dragon here, as we're back to live, looks like Invictus may be able to take their first Dragon here. They have been 3. Diamond Prox waiting on the wing to get in there and smite this out. Who will be able to grab their Diamond? Diamond Prox grabs it out. Can they win the fight? They lost a lot of HP on the focus there. Alex Ish on a rampage as he drops PDD, and it looks like they will be able to melt a few members here of Invictus Gaming. Diamond is still alive somehow. Puts on the shield. Can they get these last 2 with a sliver of health and an ace and the Dragon Steal when they lose 3?
That is M5 making the team fights happen, which you just look at that coordination. Despite not really having most of their ultimates back there, it just did not quite matter. Gosu Pepper dropped, unable to cast Stranglethorns due to the cooldown, even though the Solar Flare was up, that shorter cooldown, pretty useful when you fight all the time. But even still, it did not matter. They instantly dropped down PDD's Yorick. Yeah, he got to put that ghoul out, but just not quite as strong overall. Great overall play here, M5 really putting themselves in a great place now. Finally picking up their own turret kill. Now 3-0 on Dragons. That is the only reason they had this gold lead here. There's 14-14 with a turret deficit and a lot of minions on a lot of champions. But they've got that dragon pressure, that objective right there, really keeping M5 in this.
Freak, this is such a crazy game. 1-1, 2-2, 6-2, 14-14, handfuls of kills at a time. We're not really even seeing turret dives anymore. These are full-on team fights from 15 minutes on, and these teams are just racking up the kills. Some in favor of Invictus. Now an ace coming in for Moscow 5 NQ, but 3 of their members going down. Yes, they continue to get Dragon, and that is going to help them, but these fights have really not been absolutely definitive. That was an ace, but Alex East was just really unfocused the entire time, so it could go completely different if that happens with him going down first.
Well, the good thing for him, though, is he's about to not go down first anymore. M5, Team Guardian Angel, is about to be in effect. You can see a lot of items coming through. Xin Zhao's got the Null Magic Mantle and the Cloth Armor. Null Magic Mantle and Cloth Armor are here on Lee Sin. Chain Vest and Null Magic Mantle here onto Evelynn, and you're even seeing Zyra. That's actually probably an Aegis in that case, but you're going to see a lot of durability on most of that front line here. It's about to be 8 life M5 here, and that's going to be very difficult to burst through for Invictus Gaming.
Diamond seeing one. They may get antsy here. They find Kid, but they're going for Xiao Xiao. A lot of damage onto Leona. She throws down her shield. Looks like she could go down. Trying to Zenith Blade out. Solar Flare as she helps her team continue to get there. A great ultimate by Gosu keeps them from really getting into the fight, and they don't have vision past that bush. The ward in the bush for Moscow 5 NQ playing huge dividends here. Now they're just kind of messing around with the raid camp. Diamond says, I can't hit anybody. I'm still going to get experience in the situation. Alex East from behind flashes out to take some cooldowns, and here comes Darian, just trying to man mode the entire team. He does get taken down finally, but it is Moscow 5 still in this fight, pursuing kills. Zatai coming up very big with a triple kill now. Zatai finding it, but he is going to go down to Genja. Now it's Gosu Pepper on the chase. Kid will pursue. If his shift is up, he will find this kill. The arcane shift hits. He does not. Yes, he does find the last hit required. 19-17. 5 kills for one, 3 for the other. Like I said, just in handfuls.
And this is just going back and forth over and over again. It looked like M5 got a little bit greedy there. They got that free kill onto Leona, which was nice, opening up a 5-on-4. But the problem is, the fights really depend on how good is Petrifying Gaze going to be. That's really turning these battles. Her ultimate is so feast or famine. If she stuns multiple targets, you're going to see M5 drop off really, really fast. And look at that build. It's so aggressive. Went Sorcerer's Shoes, got the Abyssal, but then went for a Depth Cap. You see sometimes these Cassiopeia players will go for Spell Vamp, they'll go for some durability, Rod of Ages. Not the case, it's all damage output all the time. Let's see that last fight go down. It was so close. Who was the big player? Let's find out right now. We see the opening goes on, they jump on a Kid, but the thing is Darian not that far, doesn't really shut Kid down, he's able to put out a lot of damage. There's the fight in the middle, and Genja really caught out here, out of position, down below half health, and burning his Summoner Heal. The flash coming out from Ghost Pepper as well. Now check out the next big play. A little bit of harass comes down. There comes Alex East. The first is on. Again, Darian in the middle of it all. Not a big deal though. And Kid is left alone to put out damage the entire time here. Kid completely safe. There's the ult from Zatai. Burst damage. Kendra goes down. Alex tries to come back in, but he's unhealthy there. Look at that. Kid just turns around and destroys him. The AD carry still alive. And that's what happens if you don't kill Kid or you don't kill Genja. That's how those fights turn around. An easy chase there for Kid. You've got to kill the AD carry first. You've got to. You cannot waste your cooldowns on anyone else.
Invictus Gaming has not really pushed too much off of these fights, Reek. We've seen this happen before. You need to start capitalizing on things. That top turret was very nicely prepped for them to be taken down throughout the entire lane, and they're able to capitalize on that. So inching by these fights, they are going back and forth. We did see the ace there, but they still need to be picking up more. They didn't find the last dragon, so they need to capitalize very hard off of every fight they win.
Well, as long as they can capitalize off of turrets, that's going to be fine. The difficulty, though, is it's now only 3-2, and it's going to be a bit harder for Invictus because these outer turrets are all gone, and they're not doing the best job of timing Dragon. They've not been picking them up. Yeah, okay, they made an attempt for that third one. Of course, it did get stolen. They need to keep the pressure on these objectives and really turn these fights into something special. Because as we've seen this game, the fights are going back and forth. The gold basically equal. The fights are really determined by Zatai's ultimate and how coordinated the teams are, if anyone gets caught, if anyone lands skill shots or not. So the only way to cement yourself into the lead is actually by making some really big moves and snowballing yourselves ahead so that your gold can cover any mistakes you might make. Go for it.
No, you said that this game is so close, and I think statistically close throughout the entire tournament. At 28 minutes in the game, this is the closest we've had the gold and the kills. This game is still anybody's matchup.
The fight's about to start again. Initiation comes in from Darien.
Good job, kid. Almost. Oh, he does get taken down. He doesn't even get a chance to attack. Zatai falling to Moscow 5 BenQ. Alexis coming up very big, but it's Diamondprox with the double kill. The chase onto PDD is just too strong, and this completely spells Baron at 29 minutes for Moscow 5 BenQ.
That M5 initiation combo, man, it worked this time. They completely eviscerated Kids Ezreal, and there was no damage left to support the team the rest of the way through. M5 with complete map control. Illusion's not even going to try to steal away Baron Nashor. There's that objective you want to get after winning a team fight. M5 finally winning a battle convincingly enough they could move on and get something else. They've finally got themselves a bit of a gold lead. They've got map control. Expect to see at least a turret fall down pretty soon. Impeccable timing, though, on Dragon means they're going to go for that one first, but they still do have time, and Baron buff, really, over these next 3.5 minutes to push down another turret and kind of put that advantage back in their favor as well.
The fourth Dragon of the game, just adding to the pockets of Moscow 5 BenQ. The richest person in the game right now is going to be Genja on Kog'Maw, but right behind him by 100 gold. They're both at 11,000. 10,000 right now for Zatai, so you can just see how far ahead they are. These guys really banking it for themselves, and the kills going across the board for them. 8 kills for Genja, 8 kills for Alex Ish. They almost have the same exact score. 4 kills coming in for Diamondprox as well. Darien had a very hard game top, but he's got 14 assists, so he is participating in every fight still.
This is really smart, though, for Darien, as he went like pretty much a full tank build, knowing that not only is he kind of one of the major frontline forces here, and realizing that, again, it's double bruiser, you don't have like an Alistar or a Shen to play the main tank, so someone needs to man up and just be a beefy wall in front, and that guy is Darien here, and thankfully, tank items are pretty efficient there, so he kind of just bought up some durability and was like, you know what, I don't have a lot of damage output necessarily, but I am going to be a really big factor in this game regardless. I have initiation, I have base damages, I have crowd control. Come at me, bro. Kid, you're going to be dying a lot in these fights.
Now, Freak, Zin's build is going to be tanky anyways during that top lane phase, but if he would have had an easier lane, would there be more damage in his build, or did he build accordingly for that?
There'd be a little bit more just because he'd be a little bit higher level. He'd have more gold to spend overall on items. I think he still needed to realize that someone has to play the role of tank,
right.
and because you've got a more consistent sort of source of gold being a top laner, that it's a little bit easier to build your top laner as the tank. Because again, neither of them are dedicated tanks by their own right. They've got to cover that with items, and the best way to cover that with items is to have the gold to spend and actually buy those pieces of equipment. So Darien really performing that role. I think from Champions League they knew that was his role, but thankfully, his fates have finally turned around a little bit. They're actually doing a better job in fights. He's getting the gold to supply these items. If Darien had kept getting shut down, if none of these fights went well for M5, he would be so squishy this game.
We see Invictus Gaming in their own jungle now. Looks like they're trying to head towards top, just going where they saw the last vision of Moscow 5. With that Baron and Dragon down, it's really all up to just that Fog of War fight. Who's going to catch who off guard? Right now, Invictus only has the defensive wards. All the wards for Moscow 5 BenQ are offensive. Behind Baron, in Invictus's Tribush, as well as one just went down at Raids, but they're in the bottom of the map as well. They're trying to give themselves that advantage here. 30 minutes into the game, they've broken that score. They've broken that close gold. It's now 49,000 to 44,000, and the turrets are even. Moscow 5, we're now seeing Diamond and Darien staying together in a little bit of a pushing crew here. We'll see how this affects the split push.
Well, it's going to be, I don't really care, really. M5 can just keep pushing on forward. There's a little bit of wave clearing from Cassiopeia that will make it a little bit difficult, but even still, M5 is the dive crew. They can just go in on a turret and probably come out in pretty good shape. Now, it's only a 4,000 gold difference, but it's still going to be a 5-on-4 to start. They'll get the shield from Illusion. That's pretty strong, but that doesn't mean everything. They can still get a bunch of kills before he's there to lend crowd control. It's a 3-second channel, that teleport. So in the first 3 seconds, if they kill everyone else on the lineup, it doesn't matter if he shows up.
Going right under the turret. There's the dive in. Trying to blow some cooldowns. They blow Stand United. Alex East in the back. He's able to drop Zatai and flash out of that one alive. The Gosu ultimate is going to knock all of them up, and there's just way too much crowd control for them to answer back. Moscow 5 wiping him out. 2 left for Invictus Gaming. Illusion may go down under the turret. Kid is forced to just keep distance right now. He makes it onto the fountain, but Kid gets dope. Oh, Darian goes down from the fountain laser, and it looks like they are forced out, Freak, but inhibitor turrets are going to get the damage in before they make it.
Yeah, they're going to get hurt a little bit, but it's still a 4 versus 2. Darian channeling his Ender Mach Noon, diving at the base turret right there. And they would have liked to have that, but it's going to be GG anyway. Congratulations, M5 winning Game 1 of the quarterfinals. Invictus needs to find something to come back for Game 2.
Moscow 5 a little on their heels in the beginning, but they just played their game. They continued to gank over and over. Diamond Prox definitely countered the ganks beautifully. He was always top when you saw Illusion there.
And that's really what it takes, though. You've got to be aggressive as that team and reactive at the same time. That relying on counter ganks was so impeccable there. And Invictus knew that top lane was like a free win if they could get those ganks going. They knew they could kill Darian. They knew they could set up for that. And, they forced his flash very early on. They put a lot of pressure on that top lane. They kept pulling Illusion over there to deal with him. And I think that was the right play. It's hard to gank for Yorick. It's a little bit hard to gank for Cassiopeia because Alex was playing very safe in the background, and so it made a lot of sense that they would combo in onto Leona and try to put a lot of pressure down there and deal some damage. So I think their gank choices from Invictus made sense, but the reactions from Moscow 5 were perfect. I think they read the team and realized, well, of course they're gonna camp Xin Zhao. He's got no natural escapes. They're comboing with Leona. They've got Shen. They're of course going to tower dive, and you saw Diamond was so aware of what that team was up to. Aside from that level 1 gank off of Lizard buff, he was there for every single gank, every single time. Perfect play from Diamond. And we're going to see a replay of that game-winning push and just how much damage M5 really has.
And we have just the fact that this game was really going to be scaling into late game for these guys. They played it in that mentality as well. Xin was top, having a completely hard time, but knowing, like you said, if he built tanky, he would still be able to farm. He kept himself at 141, only 40 CS behind PDD bottom, who was continuously given blue buff, actually just the one time, and then to the mid. You had Alex Ishin mid having a completely hard time, and then we talked about how it was going to be a burst game after that and how Cass falls behind. So that mentality, almost like Counter Logic Europe, is that we just kind of want to not avoid team fights, so it's a little different than Europe, but not get into them this early because we're not scaled to that point yet. So now we have a replay of one of those aces from the game.
All right, then things start off, right? You see Kid down in the back with a jump on. There's so much damage being dealt on a PDD. This is the one, though, where Kid has a really good time with this overall. Zatai picking up a lot, the damage coming out, and again, it's just the AD carry getting dropped off the map, and that meant everything here. That burst coming from M5 not landing on the right targets just means that Kid over and over and over again is going to just find enemy champions just kind of exposed and able to be killed. Kid finding that last kill the ace picked up. Again, M5, that you saw them make the correct decisions later on. They finally killed the right targets first. Their initial combos were not put on as a Zatai or Kid. You saw that fight go sour for them. The rest of them, I think they fought them much more successfully. Well done by them.
Yeah, they've really played well with Kid on Ezreal, but it just was not enough for them to get through that game. Now they are coming into a second one, and we know that Moscow 5 is just continuously strong right off the bat, even cold on their first game of the day, Freak.
Well, sure, both these teams coming out their first games of the day at the very least, but of course Invictus, yeah, they did have yesterday to kind of play a few warm-up games and fight some of the top competition. But these guys have warm-up computers. They've been scrimming a lot. We saw a lot of them playing actually before the tournament even started on Wednesday over here. And these guys are pretty much warmed up. They are good to go. They know their strategies. They know their opponents. I'm impressed really by M5's overall confidence, kind of picking Evelynn blindly and saying, counterpick me, I dare you. And it did work out. We're going to see actually just how dominant that Eve was. We've got a replay of that last push. You're going to see just what kind of plays Alex Ish makes. You can see they're just poking out on the outside of the turret. Genja putting out some pressure with his ultimate. The ultimate goes on. There's the push on the PDD. He gets the shield, but they don't care about the shielding PDD. They care about killing out Zatai right away. That kill being put on there. Sure, he got ulted by the Yorick clone, but it doesn't really matter too much. They killed out PDD. They found another kill on the Xiao Xiao, and they're just diving in because they just crushed those champion lines too quickly. I kind of dislike that shield being put down, onto Yorick instead of being put down onto Zyra. Not Zyra, sorry, but onto Cassiopeia, because they're just crushing out and dealing so much damage as that team. You saw her get one shot at basically forced to use the clone to revive, but they were kind of okay with it at that point. They had the Guardian Angel and Alex Ishii got himself farmed enough, that triple kill in that fight in the mid game really set himself up for a lot of items and a lot of power so that he was able to kind of be one of those main initiators and just kind of deal with everyone with his face, just crush people's health bars and survive through that fight. That Guardian Angel really coming in big for him.
I really think the play of Moscow 5 set Invictus Gaming on tilt. I think they need to not aggress in fights just as hard. We saw Alex Ishii going into fights many times and flashing out, and they waited for that to happen every time. So many cooldowns were blown, and the mechanics of Moscow 5 prevailed through the fight every time. So Invictus needs to slow it down, really consider the fight they're going to engage, and I believe that will help them coming into the next game.
Yeah, they've got to make sure that they are actually going for the right targets. The one thing about heavy assassins with great initiation is that when they get enough durability to survive counterattack, that's how assassins kind of work. They all in, they pick up a target, right, and then typically the team needs to collapse back onto them and kill them off. Alex had an amazing mid-game and got a Guardian Angel. That option was no longer available. Once again, that lineup from IG cannot pick off the back line. Genja was safe as well. Yep. Alex couldn't get taken down to the front line. There was really no recourse for them. There's nothing else for them to kill in that matchup. So it's either don't let Alex get that GA on an assassin or get a team that can shut down Genja. Because when they actually went for him and they were able to reach him because he overextended, he did die right away. So we're going to see if IG has what it takes to bring Game 2. We will be right back after these quick messages with Game 2 of M5 BenQ versus Invictus Gaming.